Today, many people worry if their food delivery will arrive in 20 minutes or 30. In 1900 America, some families had a very different worry, whether there would be bread on the table at all. In the winter of 1900, in a small coal mining town in Pennsylvania, the O'Connor family lived in a narrow wooden house that leaned slightly to one side, as if the cold winds had slowly pushed against it for years. The house stood among dozens of similar homes built quickly for immigrant workers who had come to America searching for opportunity. Inside that house lived 9 people: Patrick O'Connor, his wife Mary, and their 7 children. Patrick had arrived in America from Ireland in the 1880s. Like many immigrants of that time, he believed the stories about America being a land where a man willing to work hard could build a better life. But the reality for many immigrant workers at the turn of the 20th century was far more difficult. Patrick worked in the coal mines just outside the town. Coal was one of the most important industries in America at the time. It powered trains, heated homes, and fueled factories that were helping transform the country into an industrial giant. But the work inside the mines was dangerous and exhausting. Every morning before sunrise, Patrick walked nearly 2 miles through snow, mud, or dust to reach the mine entrance. The workday often lasted 10 or even 12 hours. Inside the mines, men worked by the dim light of oil lamps, swinging pickaxes against solid rock while breathing air thick with coal dust. Cave-ins and explosions were constant dangers. For all that risk, Patrick earned about $1.50 a day. Even in 1900, that was barely enough to support a large family. At home, Mary O'Connor faced her own daily battle, feeding 9 people with almost nothing. Bread was the center of nearly every meal. In many poor American households at the time, bread, potatoes, and soup were the main sources of food. Meat was rare, often reserved for special occasions or Sundays if the family could afford it. Mary learned how to stretch a single loaf of bread as far as possible. She would cut thin slices so each child could have a piece. Sometimes she soaked stale bread in broth to make it softer and more filling. On the hardest days, she mixed flour and water to bake simple biscuits in a cast-iron stove. To the children, even those biscuits tasted like a feast. The O'Connor children grew up quickly. The oldest son, Michael, was only 13 when he began helping his father by carrying tools for miners after school. In many mining towns at the time, boys started working young because families needed every possible income. Child labor was common in America in the early 1900s. Young boys worked in mines, factories, and mills across the country. Photographs from that era often show children covered in coal dust or standing beside large machines that looked far too dangerous for someone so young. Michael's job paid only a few cents a day, but every coin mattered. The family kept a small wooden box where they placed the money they earned. Some weeks the box held enough to buy flour, potatoes, and perhaps a little salt pork. Other weeks it was almost empty. Yet, despite the hardship, the O'Connor family was not without hope. America in 1900 was a country changing rapidly. Railroads connected distant towns, factories produced goods at unprecedented speed, and millions of immigrants continued arriving through ports like Ellis Island. For many poor families, education was seen as the key to a better future. Mary O'Connor believed this strongly. Even when money was scarce, she insisted her children attend school whenever possible. She often told them something simple but powerful. "Your father works in the dark, so you can find your way to the light." Those words stayed with Michael. In the evenings, after working at the mine and finishing his school assignments, Michael sometimes studied by the dim glow of a kerosene lamp. Books were rare in their home, but he read everything he could find. By the time he was 16, Michael had learned enough mathematics and bookkeeping to assist the mine office clerk. It was a small opportunity, but it kept him out of the tunnels and allowed him to see how the business side of the mining industry worked. The years passed. The early 1900s were a time of enormous industrial expansion in America. New companies were forming, transportation networks were growing, and towns that once relied only on mines or farms were beginning to develop other industries. Michael saved every dollar he could. Eventually, he moved to Pittsburgh, a booming industrial city where steel mills and railroads created countless business opportunities. There, he found work as a clerk in a supply company that sold tools and equipment to mines and factories. The work was not glamorous, but Michael understood the industry better than most clerks because he had grown up inside it. He knew what miners needed. He knew which tools lasted longer and which broke quickly. Within a few years, his ideas helped the company improve its products and attract more customers. By the 1920s, Michael O'Connor had become a partner in the business. The boy who once carried tools through coal dust now helped run a company supplying equipment to mines across several states. But Michael never forgot the narrow wooden house where his family once struggled to buy bread. When he earned his first large profit, he did something that surprised many of his colleagues. He traveled back to the small mining town in Pennsylvania. There, he purchased several of the old workers' houses and helped repair them so miners' families could live in safer conditions. He also funded a small public library for the town's children. At the opening ceremony, someone asked him why he cared so much about a place he had left years earlier. Michael paused for a moment before answering, "Because I remember what hunger feels like, and I remember what hope feels like too." Today, in a world where food can be ordered instantly and opportunities often seem endless, it is easy to forget how different life once was. But more than a century ago, in a cold mining town in Pennsylvania, one family proved something remarkable. Sometimes the greatest victories do not begin with wealth or comfort. Sometimes they begin with a single loaf of bread shared among 9 people and the determination to build a better future from almost nothing.